Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Blues feed for a dissection of the Bayern Munich game last night. We are chatting the morning after. Before we get into it and give you our thoughts, and you never know, there might be a little Danny rant coming up. We'll see. I just want to remind you all of the 1K subscriber giveaway. So once we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we'll be giving away a Chelsea shirt from this season. We just need you all to like and subscribe and comment on any of the videos, and we will enter anyone that comments into the draw for the shirt. So make sure you do that and share the pod with your friends. The quicker we get to 1,000 subscribers, the quicker one of you lucky people gets a Chelsea shirt. Danny, let's rip the plaster off, get straight into it, and talk about the game last night. Obviously, we had a bit of a chat afterwards, but let's share our views with the lovely people that come and listen and watch us. Should we go section by section? So let's have a I don't know. Let's maybe probably a slightly biased view on it to start with, but let's talk about the referee because it it was a terrible refereeing performance for the standard of the competition. And don't get me wrong, I think Bayern got a couple of bad decisions against them, but we definitely got the worst of it. Um,
He
I
just
I mean, the
reminded me of a
penalty,
referee that just wanted to be involved. That was the biggest
exactly,
thing. I mean, I
star of
think
the show.
we got a little bit more worse of wear, but there were so many fouls. I'm just like, just let that go, mate. Like it's not that
Yeah,
bad. And he was so inconsistent with his yellow cards as well. There were so many times where we got yellow cards for soft challenges, and they didn't get yellow cards for bad challenges.
like the Elise
Uh,
push, like you
yeah,
can't do that. You just
yeah.
can't do that. But
Mm.
the penalty sums
And
it up.
Gnabry
He
just
didn't
like
give it, then he
grabbing
gave it.
Enzo Fernandez at one point and just pulling him to the floor, no yellow card. Like,
Yeah, 100%. It was shocking, wasn't it? And I mean,
it
to sum
was.
it up, the first goal. How is that a drop ball? He's kicked it at the ref. The ref is stationary. He's not moved. He's not moved an inch. If you watch it back, he has literally stayed in the same position. How can that be his fault? And how can that turn to a drop ball? I can
It is a
understand a
drop ball by
retake.
the letter of the law, to be
I,
honest.
but it's pathetic. It's a pathetic law. Okay, maybe it's not the ref's fault on this one. But if the ref is I understand it if he's moving and the ball's in play and he gets in the way. I get that 100%. That makes sense. But he is stationary. A professional footballer should be able to take a free kick from 10 yards away and not hit the ref. It shouldn't be that difficult. So why? I just
Yeah.
don't understand that rule. Even a retake in that scenario would make a little bit more sense. But to then have a drop ball with the ball moving, being able to counter from there, I just don't think that is a good use of the rule, to be honest. And whether that's a ref's fault or somebody with powers a bit higher up, I'm not sure. But that is just a poor rule, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one for me was the tar red card, like how you can just literally uppercut someone in the throat and you don't get a red card. And then apparently he said to Maresca that it wasn't a red card because it wasn't aggressive enough. Like, oh, what? Like, so you just need to, like, absolutely wind it back and punch someone in the throat and he needs to, like, go off because he's that injured. Or, like, as Maresca said, you need
Yeah,
blood for it to be a red card. I mean, yeah,
it's pathetic
it's
though, isn't it?
ridiculous.
It was. I,
Hmm.
I watched back a little while ago. I watched back the highlights from the Nottingham Forest game last night, and there was a challenge on there. It was just a standard slide tackle. Player was late for the ball, but there was an advantage to be played, and it started to be played. But the second the ref saw the player rolling around on the floor, is when he pulled it back for a free kick. Not the actual foul itself,
Yeah.
but once the player was rolling around. So it shows that they always go off the reaction of the player rather than the actual foul
There
that's
was
taken
also
place.
one, like, just thinking about that now, like, in the Bayern Munich game yesterday, where it was when Chalobah went up for the header, the geezer fell to the floor and hurt his knee. He carried on the play for their attack, which was quite dangerous. We then won the ball and he stopped the ball, but it was for a knee injury. Like the geezer's on the floor. You were happy to play on when they were attacking, but as soon as we've got
Exactly.
the ball, all of a sudden you pull it back because he's injured.
And they could put the ball out for their own teammate. They chose not to. He must be okay. Carry on.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want this to come across as excuses because let's be completely honest. Bayern Munich were better than us. That is the be all and end all of it. Maybe not in the first half, but in the second. And before we sort of dissect the Chelsea performance for the positives, let's talk about the few negatives. So the first goal, obviously, we switched off with the drop ball. I can sort of understand the confusion, but you're playing top level football. You can't afford to switch off for a second. The second
Hmm.
one is a penalty, fair enough. Caicedo wins that challenge 99 times out of 100. So I'm not going to say anything about that. But it's a mistake. It happens. Let's move on. And then the third goal, I feel harsh on Sanchez because he made a couple of great saves in the build up to that. I think Gusto's getting some stick on it. Yes, he gave the ball away. We're being told to play that way. I understand that. Gusto was largely good for that game, and I think people will now use that as a stick to beat him with, which I think is slightly unfair. But overall, it's not good enough. The way we were playing out from the back, especially in that sort of 20-minute period where the third goal came, it wasn't good enough. We were inviting pressure. We weren't tight enough with our passes. We weren't defending well enough. And ultimately, it proves that probably the centre backs, especially, just aren't Champions League level or at the level to
Hmm.
play against the likes of Bayern Munich. What do
Yeah.
you think for the goals and the sort of the individual errors?
I think the way I would describe the whole entire performance, both from the players and the manager, was a naivety and inexperience at this level. You go at the first goal switched off. Also, poor organisation. How the fuck is João Pedro, who's one of the best headers of the ball, marking Elise out wide when he should be in the middle, and you should have an actual defender like Cucurella, who's not really going to. He's all right in the air, but he's not going to win a header in the middle. So you should have Cucurella out there. So naivety there of bad organisation. Caicedo showed a bit of naivety slash like over like zealous to win the ball back. He was so keen to win the ball and make a challenge. Don't need to do that there. Yes, that's fine in the middle of the park, but not in the penalty box. And then the third goal, we invited pressure into Gusto by playing that ball out to him. And then in that situation, you just need to put your foot for it. If you've got two players on you, you've taken a bit of a bad touch, just hoof it out the pitch, hoof it up the pitch, whatever. Got caught on it, and then Kane makes a fantastic finish. It is what it is. Um, the way I kind of saw the ebb and the flow of the game is the first like 15, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, we were the better side. As always with these big games, you're going to have ebbs and flows of who's in control and who's playing better. When Bayern Munich had a 5 minute spell of playing better, we didn't know how to deal with it and we didn't reset. Concede the goal from confusion of 20 of the drop ball, switch off. Then we go into complete panic mode and they go 2-1 up. Then we score a goal on the counter and we like settle back down into the game and we're like, okay, cool, we're probably the better team for the final 15 minutes of the second half. Start the second half very well, 10 minutes done well, and then I was screaming at people on WhatsApp of like, we need to make a change here about the 55th minute because Dave's got control, Neto's not playing particularly well, Enzo Fernandez isn't playing particularly well. Let's make the changes. And I literally called for Santos to come on, Garnacho to come on, and Esteval to come on. That was in the 55th minute. We then concede in the 63rd minute, I think it was, and he makes the subs 5 minutes later. You could see there was a few cutscenes where he went to Maresca and he's debating it with his bench. He knew that he needed to make a change, but we started the second half well, so I think he just didn't want to make a change too early while we were doing okay. We don't make those changes. We go 3-1 down, game's over, and then he waits far too long to bring Esteval on. So naivety, inexperience from both the team and the manager throughout, and also, yeah, absolutely what you said. The centre backs are just clearly nowhere near good enough. They look rash, they look rushed, they look a bit scared, a bit naive at that level. And I'm sorry, but yes, we were under UEFA sanctions, and yes, we had to be careful, and that's why we necessarily didn't get a centre back. But you're telling me that you're after Lamine, not Lamine Yamal. You're after what's his name, Fermin,
Yeah,
Fermin Lopez on deadline day for 50, 60 million, but you didn't have 15 million for Mosquera, who we called out as a player that we could sign. We didn't have 25 million for Log Balde, who's just gone to Leverkusen, and it looks unbelievable there. You didn't have that space. And at the end of the day, if you didn't have that space, you're also in the wrong because you've bought Saar, you've bought Alzamina, you've bought Tosin, you've bought Badiashile, you've bought Disasi, and your best two centre backs are Tosin. Well, fit centre backs are Tosin, who was free, and Trevor Chalobah, who was a academy product. And when everybody's fit, you're probably saying that Trevor and Colwell are arguably your best centre backs, and they're both from Cobham. So you've bought 6 centre backs that aren't good enough yet. It's your fault. So I don't want to hear the excuse of the UEFA sanctions. So
Yeah.
they need to address that. If that's in January that they bring an Ansu Fati or a Sarr back, or they sign a centre back, or whatever they do, but if Levi Colwell's not back till March, April time, and Fofana just looks like a shell of himself, / will get injured again soon, we're not going to be able to compete long term in these big games with the centre backs that are fit. So
Yeah, drawing it back to the game last night, I do agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I'm going to do something that I rarely do, to be honest. I'm going to defend Maresca a little bit. My issue with the changes last night, it was clear, like you say, that the changes were needed. I'm just not necessarily convinced that draw it back slightly before that. The way that we lined up, I think we all agree. Obviously, it's the way we beat PSG. We looked really good when it clicked last night. It looked really good. That's our best way to shape up in these bigger games. It's the only way we can take it to other teams in the big games. My issue with that being there's no ready-made replacements on the bench to like you said. Neto was having a bad game, but there's nobody who can bring on the bench who can bring what Neto can bring off the ball to make that system work. So I
I
think there's
disagree.
so. I think there's so much upheaval to change the system in game when you start like that, which is why I
Completely
feel like
disagree, to be fair.
but this is why I feel like Maresca doesn't start like that in the league because he knows that he's got to make changes to change games if we're losing, etc. I don't know who would you bring on for Neto, let's say last night, but
Garnacho.
but keeping that same structure. So you're telling me
Yeah.
Garnacho's got the
Garnacho
same work?
worked as hard as Neto last
I
night when
see.
he
I,
came on.
I disagree
Get
with that.
Neto, there was multiple times that Neto was not back helping Cucurella. Yes, Neto
I just
works
think
hard. That's not a slight on Neto at all. He works hard and he usually does well. Garnacho was back helping for that long. And you're telling me Garnacho can't play 30 minutes of the tracking back as well? I thought he was more positive going
I just
forward
don't
than
think he's
Neto.
ready to play in that system is so specific. You watch it when one player goes, everybody else knows what to do. I don't think Garnacho's been with us long enough. I think
I
there's two.
disagree. He's playing left back. He's playing left wing. He just has to defend.
I
I
think
don't. I
it's
don't
more
agree with that.
complicated. I think it's more complicated, to be
And then when
honest.
Santos came on for James, he looked better
Yeah,
than James did
we
all
changed.
game in
Yeah,
that
we changed
position.
the structure. He changed the structure, and this is what I'm saying.
Slightly, but
Yeah,
not
exactly.
massively.
But you have. But it's those little fine margins that are the differences. And I
You
think,
still had Santos in DM, and you still had Garnacho at left wing. You still had Enzo Fernandez at
yeah,
you
on
still had
paper, but they're
Palmer.
still not. They're not doing the
They
same
played
roles that
very
the other players
similar.
were
I
doing.
wouldn't say I didn't see any change in structure when those two
Anyway,
came on.
my point being is Maresca's got two things he's got to do. He's either got to work on that system that we started with and get the whole group being able to feature in it, or he needs to find another way to be able to affect big games where it's so much easier to make rotations. Like you say, when Neto's not playing well, you take him out, you bring Garnacho in without it making a difference. Because that is why he didn't make them subs. That is why, like you say, he was deliberating it and why he kept talking to his staff because he wasn't confident in the players on the bench coming on to replace those players. Because if he was, he'd have done it. Because, like you said, he
Potentially
was.
from the confidence side of things, but I think we're overstating the system. I don't think it was a particularly complicated system that anything was happening. I think when we're invert, it's probably more complicated than
I,
the system we played
I'm not
last
sure
night.
about that. You saw times where Tosin was ahead of Enzo and Palmer, where he was going in with Kane. You have to, but then the other players that aren't Tosin need to know what they're doing when he leaves that hole behind. And if players haven't been training, haven't learned that system, they're not going to know what to do and where to be. You could bring Sand at that point. Tosin went up with Kane. Reece dropped into centre back, dropped in, took Gnabry. If Santos isn't aware of how to play it, Maresca's not going to have the confidence to put him in. It's
It's
that
pretty
simple.
simple, mate. If Tosin steps up, you step back. It's not. Don't need to work on it for hours on the training field.
I think you'd be surprised. It took us till the Club World Cup to play like that last season.
I think that was out of stubbornness of wanting to invert from Maresca to start with, but
No, I just think it took longer than he expected to learn on the training pitch.
potentially.
As you'll see with a lot of managers who are very system driven and everybody needs to know what they're doing, it takes longer. You look at somebody like Graham Potter when he was at Brighton, for example. It took him sort of 2.5 years to get his system in place, and then when it worked really well. And then De Zerbi took it on and made it better. I just think that and don't this is it's not an excuse on last night. Maresca's got to do better. One way or the other, he's either got to get that system ready for everyone to play it or play something different. So that is an issue with him, and like you say, that's naivety of him. But I also understand in a way why the subs were delayed. And I don't, to be honest, I don't think if we'd have changed the subs before the third goal, it would have made much of a difference because we'd have still had the centre backs at centre back,
Just,
and we'd have still
yeah,
dealt with those
I
issues.
get that, but I think it would have just taken some sting out of the game just having that break and changing something. I mean, Neto was just giving the ball away every time he got it. That was just inviting
100%.
pressure
Yeah.
on and on and on and on back. It's like we got it back, had it for 30 seconds, Neto got rid of the ball. And then you're like, oh, so they're attacking again. So yeah, don't get me wrong, they might not have made a difference, but I just think that there's been a running theme with Maresca for a little while outside of the last game in the league where he made 3 subs at half time, but we were horrendous, so I'm not surprised. He seems to take slightly too long all the time. And quite a lot of the time, the, me, you, all the people we speak to, standard fans are screaming for subs, and then we concede, and then he brings the subs on, and it's just like, bro, you've been needing that for 10 minutes.
Yeah. I
He needs
think
to be a bit more proactive with his game management.
the overall summary of the game is that we were a bit naive with the way we played and the way we tried to move the ball out from the back, especially. And I think that lack of Champions League experience really showed. I mean, I think they said on TNT before the game that there was within the Chelsea group there was 68 Champions League appearances before last night within our group, which 30 of which were Reece James and 8 were Cole Palmer, so 30 between the other 9 starters. And there was 566 in the Bayern team. So
Yeah.
almost just under 500 more appearances. So it shows that lack of experience. And then when when Bayern went 3-1 up, they kept the ball so well and they managed the game so well.
100%.
So
Is I mean that's the issue you have with the strategy that we have of like young players and bringing them through. There's going to be times like that where it's naivety or inexperience, and I mean we saw it at the Brentford game. We don't. Maresca said it multiple times. We don't manage a game when we need to manage a game out, and that
yeah,
needs to come with experience.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
but I will say that overall, I thought it was quite a positive performance, even with my negativity and like criticism. It showed that at times within the game we can compete with these sides. And I think if that was our 6th game in the league phase of the Champions League, we potentially do a lot better, even with the performance that we had today, because I just think we would have settled down a bit more. It was always a game that, in my opinion, was like you're kind of stealing it against expected points. If you got anything, we're probably always expected to lose that game
Yeah,
and get the 16 points that we need to automatically go through elsewhere. So overall, positive performance in spells, naivety and inexperience shown through with centre backs not being good enough. Um, I think we need to see more of Josh because I don't think he's levels behind these guys. He can play at that level. We need to
completely
see
agree.
more of Andre Santos because he was fantastic when he came on. And I thought Enzo looked a bit leggy, so he needs to be rested. I think Garnacho will build in and be quite important for us, I think. And Neto needs a rest. He looked tired at times. And I think we need to take the training wheels off Esteval. He is clearly good enough. Just stop fucking protecting him. I know he was ill last week, but we only brought him on for 10 minutes this week. Let's just leave it and let's just play
I
him
think
because
he'll
he's good
start on
enough.
Saturday. I think he'll start on
I
Saturday.
hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I hope we
Well,
have Garnacho, Palmer, and Esteval on the pitch and Pedro up top. But we'll obviously preview the Man United game. Probably come out later on today or early tomorrow. So, yeah, I don't know if there's anything you want to add before we wrap up.
No, I think that's it. I think we've summarised the game. We've given positives and plaudits, and we've also criticised parts as well. Let us know your thoughts on the game in the comments, and remember, if you give us a good comment, we'll feature it on the next episode, and it will start a talking point for us. So, thank you for listening, tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, etc., and we'll catch you all on the next one.